In this video, I'm gonna talk about MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries. This is a Binford Stalker STK-3F. It weighs 85 tons, runs at 48.6 kilometers per hour, is equipped with 4 missile launchers and 6 laser cannons, and can take down an enemy twice its own size within 10 seconds. This is testosterone on legs. This is a world where everyone and everything is a man. Every surface contains hard edges. Every plane of this existence is black, gray, army green, navy blue, or arrest me red. The only musical instruments legally allowed in the New World Order are drums and electric guitars. For anyone not in the know, this is all part of a greater franchise called BattleTech, which began as a role-playing game of tabletop miniatures, and right away you know exactly what an average BattleTech player looks and acts like. Throw in a handful of novels, expansions, and video games, and the seemingly encyclopedic knowledge of its player base suddenly has an explanation. The story of this particular title is as follows. Your dad gets killed, and you are angry. That is it. That is the line. You embark on a quest for revenge, it takes you places, and in typical testosterone fashion, you can be pretty sure that you will find your guy and make him pay for his deeds. Standing between yourself and your goal is the fact that your mercenary unit is flat broke and poorly equipped, which makes for a great excuse to have you grind for money in order to purchase better items to fit yourself with and better mechs to fight with. The missions that you take on outside of the storyline are made up on the spot for the most part, and they boil down in 5 categories. Defense has you protecting a small city against an invasion of enemy forces trying to destroy it. Warzone makes the city expendable, and you get the added luxury of sticking around after completing your objectives to earn bonus money. Demolition has you being on the attacking side and seeking to destroy the city. Raid sends you to various locations around the map in order to destroy particular buildings. Lastly, Assassination has you seek out and destroy one or more specific enemies. In most cases, all that is required of you is that you complete the objective, and everything else is a secondary concern. Any vehicles that shoot back are obstacles to conquer, but they do not award any more prize money aside from potential salvage. It means that one possible approach to some of the missions is to run in as quickly as possible, blow up the target, and then run away before anybody else can react. In fact, many mission types immediately drop a bunch of enemy mechs right in your face upon completion of your objectives, and more often than not, the more attractive solution is to leg it back to your dropship at ramming speed. This can introduce an element of frustrating randomness, since the action happens in New York, only for your extraction zone to be in Los Angeles. As you move up to the heavier and slower mechs, the idea of running away becomes more of a panic decision to save your own life, and the normal approach is to methodically bulldoze everything in your path, while hoping that the enemy is not smart enough to Zerg rush you all at once. The action plays out on maps that are somewhat procedurally generated, in the sense that no 2 maps are exactly the same, but there are major chunks and pieces that get recycled from one map to the next, signaling that there is a part of hand design somewhere in the process. What is impressive is that the differences are usually radical enough that it is always a good idea to take a look and then decide on a path to adopt towards your objective. The flow of the game may look straightforward at first, but you will need to engage in tactics sooner than later. Going for the bum rush approach will grant you a one-way ticket to failure and highlight the importance of reading the terrain, ordering your teammates around, and placing them so that the beefier tanks can protect squishier snipers or entertain a kill box into which you can funnel the enemy. This will make the difference between earning mucho moolah after every mission versus realizing that you are operating at a deficit because the repair costs outweigh the revenue stream. The latter is more likely than you would be inclined to believe. Make it double if you get clueless or unlucky with the AI, especially the ones fighting for your team. The idiosyncrasies observed by the computer may manifest themselves more or less depending on how you treat them, and it took some figuring out by the community at large before it could get a grasp on the behaviors. Let me save you a bit of frustration and help you with that. First, the AI will attempt to keep a distance from the enemy equal to its shortest ranged weapon. Second, the AI will execute its firing order like so. I will try to fire Weapon Group 1. There, done. Now, I will try to fire Weapon Group 2. Okay, done. Now, to work on Weapon Group wait a minute. Weapon Group 1 is off cooldown, so I will try to fire that instead. You can guess what happens when these behaviors combine and you make the AI alternate between extreme long and short-ranged weapons, especially long missile launchers which cannot be fired unless you are at a minimum distance from the target. Counterintuitively, if you want a teammate to hang out at the sniper range you intended him to, you have to remove all his short-ranged weapons. Unlike a human player who would consider a balance of weapons to be options for many situations, the AI instead runs through them like a semi-hard to-do list. At the end of the day, you will have to outfit your mechs either for yourself or for the AI, because the two loadout styles will fatally enter in direct conflict with each other. The alternative solution is to gather some friends and run the missions in co-op mode. Doing this will make every mission infinitely easier by simple virtue that whoever you invite into your team will be somewhat smarter than the average bear. If, however, you have no friends and you do not live in a world in which the AI is voiced by Scarlett Johansson, you will have to make do with your 3 potatoes and babysit them accordingly. To help with that, your controls are mostly like any other first-person shooter. In other words, a joystick is no longer a requirement, and the different functions of your mech no longer require the entire keyboard surface for all of its tiniest little functions. I will say, however, that you absolutely want a mouse with at least 4 buttons, all for the sake of your own mental sanity, or else you will be stuck doing finger gymnastics to press number keys on your keyboard to fire some of your weapons. It may seem like the world is your oyster, but multiple factors will come into play to curb your enthusiasm. The constant power creep means that smaller and lighter mechs quickly get relegated to the enemy team as your personal target practice instead of useful tools for you. Several of the available weapons will simply never get used and function only as something to convert into dollar bills at the nearest market. The potentially unforgiving missions demand that you pay attention to which mechs and which variants you bring into play and how they will synergize with each other. Last but not least, jump jets are about as patently useless as a late teenager in a rice rocket. The moment I said that, somebody somewhere in the world is already preparing a 10-hour video essay on why we should all collectively masturbate to jump jets. Fortunately for the rest of us, it appears that such behavior is a distant exception, and while the player base has every trouble reaching a consensus on the best approach and the best vehicles for the game, they tend to keep the hostilities limited to agreeing on disagreement. And we all know that this form of restraint is a lost art in a world in which the mere mention of avocados can provoke a full-scale bloodbath between conservatives and liberals. 60 hours later, I have completed the main storyline, and it feels like I played the same 7 or 8 scenarios over and over again. Go here, destroy that thing. Or go there, protect that thing. The one-size-fits-all Big Mac quality of the missions make it so that you can always get an okay experience, but nothing to hold a candle to the clever mission design of MechWarrior 2 for anyone old enough to remember that one mission where you killed an enemy mech and then pretended to be him in order to infiltrate an honor guard. This is where mods come into play, and although they do not supply anything in the way of making the missions themselves more involved, they apply a handful of fixes to the artwork and the quality of life so as to make a few of the rougher parts more bearable. The only issue with going this route is that I do not reasonably expect a Joe Average to start looking for mods as soon as they install the game, especially if they are a newcomer to the franchise, or they simply want to get on with, actually playing the video game. Furthermore, why should the player base be picking up after the shit left behind by the developers? I see mods as a way to fundamentally change the gameplay experience. If the mods exist to make up for a lack of something, then there is a problem somewhere in the pipeline, and although I will agree that having the option of modding the game is better than not having it, the fact has about as much value as anything that is better than children starving in Africa. Installing a bunch of mods a few days after a major DLC release was a terrible idea that resulted in 15 minutes of installation followed by 2 hours of trial and error diagnosing. In the end, I managed to get something going, mostly in the artwork and quality of life departments, but it goes without saying that your mileage will vary quite significantly depending on what you put on. By the time you reach this point, you are probably on the more hardcore side of things, and you can recite the full equipment list of a Hellbringer, even though it is not even in the game. My cursory research ended with the conclusion that most of the mods consist of dressing on top of a flawed list of base ingredients. We are not exactly on the level of pizza shop salad, but more on that of looking at the contents of the plate, then at the price on the menu, then at the waiter, and repeating the circuit until somebody gets the hint. Try telling me with a straight face that, "Oh, this restaurant is different, yeah. The people who go there, they just bring their own secret sauce in a coat pocket, and they put that on their food." I know it sounds crazy, but trust me, that's just how it works over there. It'll make perfect sense when you eat there. Just trust me, okay? Trust me. Whether you are a newcomer or a seasoned veteran, despite all the napalm that I puked in the past 7 or 8 minutes, the end result is actually not obscenely terrible. It simply reeks of missed opportunities. It functions adequately, it is just missing the squirt of acid that ties a dish together. It is missing the spice that you associate with the regional cuisine. I get the feeling that I went on the subject multiple times in the past. What does that say about me? How long until I start yelling at clouds? Stick to the surface level, and you will get to have some pure old dumb fun inside of a heavy killing machine. You can spew out laser beams, you can shoot volleys of missiles, and you can launch all manners of bullets like the Founding Fathers intended, all while sowing devastation everywhere you go and literally running straight through walls Jack Baker style. If you are going to dive, then it is because you want to hit the deepest you can go and you already know what you signed up for. Because a true Scotsman is always prepared, is he not? Be aware that there will not be any in-between. Everything between the surface and the bottom is a vast ergosphere. You go up or down, but you never stay in place. You either remain at the very first degree, even at the risk of making yourself seem ignorant or feel like you missed out on a secret, or you go down the rabbit hole and join the hordes who have spent so many hours on their hobby that it has become shameful to mention the number in public, even if the results of their craft are legitimately impressive.
Godzilla, anybody?
Such wickedness.
In short, this game is smoked baby back ribs.